Hello everyone, I'm Webhersul. Now I'm going to show you the FTP simulation using Java. For this, we need two Java files, one for the server and one for the client. Here I have named the server as filesend.java and the client as filereceive.java. First of all, we will go through the filesend.java, that is TCP server. In this, we need to import the net package for the TCP. Now, until and unless the client connects to the server needs to keep on trying if any client requests for the connection. So we include this whole block into the try catch block. First of all, we create the server socket running on port 50,000. We can use any port other than 0 to 1024. The ports 0 to 1024 are reserved for the system services, which include port 80 for HTTP and other ports for FTP and other protocols. Now, we need to print a message in the console that the TCP server is running. Now, when the client starts running, the connection will be accepted by the server, and hence when we acknowledge the client is confirmed to be connected, we show the message. Now, to write and read from the socket, we need to create the two print writer and buffer reader. Print writer is to write on the socket from the server to client, and buffer reader is to read from the client to server. Now, to simulate the file transfer, I have created one directory having text files. I have shown the path, the directory name over here, and I create the list of files on that directory. For that, I create the array of file list on this directory. So the array gets the list of files in this directory. Now, for the general displaying purpose, I am sorting them using the arrays.sort. For that, I imported the java.util.arrays, which sorts the file list. Now, we need to count the required files to be transferred, or the files being hosted on the server. For this, we create one variable for counter. Now, we need to check how many files can be read or how many of them are the text files. So I loop from 0 to fl.length, that is the size of the array, if the file can be read or it is permissible to access the file, and if it ends with .text file, that is the file is text file, then we increment the counter. After doing this, we show the message to the client that this many number of files and they are listed alphabetically. Now we display them by using the getName property and the size of them in bytes. So this will be displayed to the client. Now all the messages transferred from server to client are in the form of string because we are using the pw.println, that is print writer. So for that, we need to create some delimiter so that the client will understand that the communication from the server is stopped and he need to process. Otherwise, the client will keep on waiting for the TCP, assuming that the server will send some messages. Now the print writer does not automatically flush the buffer inside it. That's why I'm manually flushing the buffer so that all the messages will be forced right to the client and will be read by the client. Now this is some part of code I will explain later. Here we will check if the file exists or not. That is, when the client will input the index number, we will check if the index is really there or not. Now if the file is found or the index is existing, now we need to send the file to the client. Now We create the new file to write to the client. I'll explain this part after we go through the index part. Now, for reading the file from the directory, we create the file reader. The file reader is created on the file name that is being formed from over here. Then buffer reader reads the file. Here we check until and unless the file finishes, that is all the lines are read and the last line is null. We keep on printing the lines to the client and then we flush the buffer. If all lines are finished, that means the file read is successful and the message will be sent to the client that socket has been closed. If there is some exception is this thing, then we will show that there is some error in FTP or some error related with the file, because this block deals with the file. There can be an error where file cannot be read or the file is corrupted, like that. After this, once we have completed the file transfer, we close the socket. We close the buffer reader stream and the socket. If there is some error in the whole try catch block shown over here, then we will display the message that there is some connection error. Please try again. Now we will go to the client, that is fileresume.java. Now the client program is really very small. It does only the accepting part. Now we create the socket for the client on the port 50,000. Now the port running on the server and the client must be same, and the address 127.0.0.1 is for the local host. Since I'm not using any web server, I'm using on my local system. That's why the address for my server is localhost. And since the server is running on the port 50,000, I also need to run on, my client also need to run on the port 50,000. Otherwise they can't communicate. Now we create the same print writer and buffer reader to read and write on socket. Now to get the input from the user for the file index or the file which needs to be transferred from the server to client, we create a buffer reader to read from the user. Now this is the delimiter which is been defined in server. So there has to be some kind of delimiter to show that the messages from the TCP have finished. Now here we show the file list received from the server to the client, and then we tell the user to enter the file index, and this file index is sent to the server. Now once the server acknowledges the file exists and starts sending the file, now the client starts receiving the file over here. For that we create the buffer writer on the file object. Now here I have created one temporary file or arbitrary file named as receive.txt on the client. This file will be saved in the same directory where the file receive.java is being saved. Now the string will keep on reading from the server the messages are incoming. Now since all the messages transferred between server and client are in the form of string, we need to create a string which will read the buffer reader, and the buffer reader will keep on reading the line until it is null, and this buffer writer will write it to the file receive.txt. Once the file reading is finished, the buffer writer will be closed and the message will be displayed that the file write is successful and closing the socket. Now here if any exception occurs, it will be displayed. I have not written a system.out.println for the IOE exception, but you can write. And this is for the main try block. If there is any problem in the server or client, it will be displayed over here. Now let's run the program. We need to run the two terminals, in one the server and another the client. Now first of all we need to run the server, and then the client. If we do it in reverse way, there will be some error. Let's check out that later. Now let's run the server. The server is displaying the message that it is running. See over here, it is before the client request for the connection. Now once the client also starts running over here, that is Java file receive, it shows that the client is connected. It is after the server accepts the socket connection. Now after that, the server sends the file list and the size of the file in bytes. Here we have got the file. Now the client program is asking the user to enter the file index number. Now let us index one file. Let us enter one index. Suppose I enter 2. Now the index received over here is 1. Now what I said was before that all the messages transferred between server and client are in the form of string. So when we receive the index number from client to server, it is in form of string. That's why I need to read the string, then convert it into the integer. Now since it is a string, it is form of the ASCII characters. That's why to convert it to the integer, I need to subtract the offset of 48. In ASCII, the 0 has the 48 value in ASCII table. That's why I'm subtracting the 48 to get the index number related to 0, so that we display the index number on the server. Now in the index number entered here is 2 and it is over here 1. That is because we subtracted the 48, that is 0. Now the file is being properly transmitted. Let's check that out. The file is received over here as received.txt. See, it is 1. It is actually nothing because the file was empty. See, the first file is 0 bytes. So that's why there is nothing in this file. Now let's run the program again. Now this time let's transfer some big file. Again doing the same thing. Let's go for the 4.txt. So enter the file index number 5. Index is 4. Let's check that out. Now the file has been overwritten, that's why we need to reload the program, the text file. Now see, there is some text being read. Again, let's go for the one more big file. Now over here, I have the file of about 3.5 MB. Let's do that. It was some other file. Let's do that again. Now see, the file writing is in progress. It is being read. Now since I am running this program from my USB flash drive, it is taking some time. See, the file over here is 3.4 MB. Let's check that in text editor. It's still loading. Okay, wait for few seconds. Yes, it is being properly read. Let's check that out. Okay, now let's check again. Okay, let's run the program again and see for the same file. Because the file was open, there was some problem in writing to the file. Okay, let's check that out. Okay, till then I will explain some. Okay, till then I will explain the coding I have done. If you have any doubts, please let me know. I will reply to the comments. Thank you for watching the video.